5 expensive mistakes men are making in the Philippines right now in 2026.
Over the last several weeks, we've been traveling around Mindanao. We've been dealing with contractors, family issues, construction, internet system, land developing, and we also spend a lot of time with men who wants to retire here in the Philippines.
And Chrissy, you know what really has surprised me is a lot of the advice men are getting about the Philippines is outdated. It's from 2023.
But you have to remember that the Philippines in 2023 is not Philippines in 2026. Some things are better, some things are more expensive, and some things are totally different from 2023 to 2026.
If they're planning to retire here, get married here, or just live here for 6 months, there are 5 realities here you need to understand before you make expensive mistakes. And we're going to talk about those 5 right now. Chrissy, what's the first one?
The first one is treating the Philippines like a vacation.
That can be a fatal mistake. We're going to talk about that. The second mistake we're going to talk about, Chrissy, is choosing a location instead of a lifestyle.
Mistake number 3 is underestimating family dynamics.
Number 4, Chrissy, is thinking that cheap means affordable.
And mistake number 5 is that thinking finding a Filipina can solve everything.
And Chrissy, we've done a bunch of surveys recently, and you know, people are very concerned about their health care. Yeah, they want to meet a gorgeous Filipina, they want to build in the mountains, they want a beach life, but they're worried about having a medical emergency here in the Philippines. And in 2026, that can cost everything. Stay tuned. We're going to talk about these 5 mistakes and how everything in the Philippines you learned in 2023 has changed. So Chrissy, we're going to go through these 5 big mistakes.
First big mistake is treating the Philippines like a vacation.
And Chrissy, we've had 6 weeks of vacation out of the last 12. We're back home, we're working, we're consulting. Here's some footage. We were down in Davao, and we drove up 3 hours from Davao, and we went to this spectacular glamping location in Dahican, and we'll put the link in the description for people who are interested. It was an Airbnb, and we've been on vacation, and we were a week in Boracay. I went back to the United States. You and I went to Taiwan, Jeju Island, Singapore, Phuket, Thailand, and
Malaysia.
Kuala Lumpur, and we're going back in September. So treating the Philippines as a vacation can be a huge mistake. It doesn't mean you can't go on vacation. And look at this road footage we had traveling through Mindanao. And Chrissy, we barely missed these monster earthquakes, 7.8, just south of General Santos. And we talked on one of our previous videos about going to General Santos, and we would need a 3-hour one-way and a 3-hour backtrack. We decided to skip it and went up the coast of Davao. But while we were on the coast of Davao, there have been earthquakes off the coast, and we were worried about a tsunami. And we had evacuation plans in our mind as what we would do if there was an earthquake and how we would get out of these low-lying areas. You can see in these images here, there was 200 meters of low tide, and we were really in a low-lying area. There were 2 earthquakes, one just south of General Santos, really large. There's been tons of aftershocks, and tragically, 15 people died, and there's people missing. And you saw footage probably of that Jollibee collapsing. But then we drove up from Dahican, and we spent the night in Bagana, which is, we stayed at a beautiful resort. It had sort of the same view. And then we went through Agusan del Norte. Now, when we got home, 2 days after we got home, there was an earthquake just south of General Santos. And we felt it. It was like 7:25 in the morning, and the lights in the house, but we didn't have any cracks, and there was nothing serious in CDO. We drove through Agusan del Sur on our way to Butuan. Now, we stayed at this very nice 4-star
Hotel.
What was it called? Hotel Oasis with a Z. Hotel Oasis. A very nice. And Butuan's a town of 400,000. And there was another earthquake 2 days after the big earthquake, a 5.1 in Agusan del Sur, right in the place we drove
It's like
through.
the earthquake's following us.
The earthquakes are following us. But thank you for everyone who asked, and we're all fine. But let's talk about how this can be a huge mistake, Chrissy, to think about the Philippines as just a vacation.
There are so many men that visited Philippines just for 2 weeks, and then they fell in love with the place. But then they thought they already learned what really the Philippines is.
Yeah, many men come for 3 weeks. That's all they can get. And they think they've been to Cebu City, they went to maybe Dumaguete, and they think they really understand the Philippines. But they don't know anything about brownouts. Every time we go to Dumaguete, there seems to be a
Broken
brownout.
roads.
Broken roads. If you don't have a car like we have this Raptor, if you don't have a fantastic suspension and great acceleration, you don't know what it's like to drive in the Philippines.
And also a lot of men don't know how struggle it is to build something in the Philippines, like dealing with, contractors, dealing with family obligations.
We're so lucky that we have Uncle James, who's just retired as a foreman for a major builder. And we've had really no difficulty and no trouble. But there are story after story after story of people who lose everything. Either their Filipina takes their property, or they get a contractor who disappears. You could find so many stories. You don't learn that on vacation. And Chrissy, you mentioned family obligations. You don't learn about family obligations if you treat the Philippines as
Like
a vacation.
A lot of men, when they visit the Philippines for 2 weeks, they will only see the good thing about it, the bright thing about the Philippines. But when you live your life in the Philippines, that's where you're going to discover everything that could turn into a chaos in your life here in the Philippines. So that is a big mistake for you to think that being here in the Philippines is just living in a paradise with no struggles.
The infrastructure is bad. The food safety has issues. Family members can be extremely poor and needy, and it can be really difficult to just watch a family member live in poverty and not have medical care. Your health care can be challenging, which we talked about. So you don't really discover these things on vacation. You're in a nice Airbnb, you're in a 5-star hotel, and noise can be a huge problem. We ran into that, Chrissy.
There are so many backpackers that come here in the Philippines, took a vacation, and then they will come home to their country saying that the Philippines is a beautiful country and I want to live there. They will only see the beautiful things when they just came here for the beautiful things about
El
the
Nido,
country.
Boracay,
But
BGC.
experiencing the reality in the Philippines can enlighten you what the Philippines really is.
And, noise is a huge problem. And if you come on vacation and you stay in a nice hotel or a high-rise Airbnb, you may not experience this noise problem. But as soon as you start looking for a rental property to stay here for 6 months or to stay here full time, it better be your priority number one in 2026. I mentioned healthcare. Let's go back and talk about that again. A lot of people like Rojas City, but it's a town of 100,000 and it doesn't have the kind of healthcare that a lot of men are really going to want. Where we live, a town of 800,000, an ambulance response time is 40 minutes. If you need a relative or a neighbor who's going to put you in the back of their pickup truck and take you to the hospital, if you have a chance of using that golden hour. And if you're in some of these smaller provincial towns, you are really out of luck. There is a peso plan insurance you can get if you move here. You may want to keep your Medicare Part B. You need to really understand the medical options at each of these locations. It's not like you're traveling on travel insurance. This is where you're going to live for 6 months. And after, like my Medicare, after 2 months, it doesn't cover me. When I leave the U.S., I get 2 months if I check into a hospital, 80%. So a lot of men need to make a big decision as to keep Medicare, travel insurance for short term, get a peso plan if they don't have enough cash in the bank, or self-insure. And then how do you get in the hospital? One of the biggest reasons I carry a peso plan from our friend Michael, and you can find in the description box, it's not sponsored, but you can see his link in the description box, is because the insurance card will get you in the hospital. If Chrissy can't find the cash or the credit card is refused, that peso plan insurance card will get you in the hospital. Transportation realities, we mentioned this real briefly. The infrastructure is really rough. And so often we see people on motorcycles who are in downpours during rainy season and the roads flood, or we see people having to come to a complete stop to get across a bump in the road. Taxis without engine mounts, all the lights on the dashboard. It's a fair price, but the taxi could be just completely falling apart. And you may not just see that in your vacation mode. You have to really come here and experience that.
Yes. I think, picking the location for you to live in the Philippines in long term is very important because you should also consider the healthcare, the hospital near you, and the kind of transportation that is available in that place. And speaking of that, picking your location, the next big mistake is that men choosing location before lifestyle.
This is a big mistake. And we get so many consulting clients who are asking for retirement options, where they should visit to explore their retirement. They want to wait sometimes to organically meet a Filipina. But there are usually, most of the expatriates here in the Philippines have chosen to live an hour or so away from their Filipina family. Now, in our case, Chrissy, your father returned to the province and we've hired a non-relative, and your mother and Uncle James are going to be our caretaker 45 minutes away in the mountain. And we're sort of fitting into this best practice now of having family an hour away, not next door necessarily. And we have men who contact us and they want to know which cities to retire in. They haven't met a Filipina yet. They don't really know where she's from. And they're making quite a mistake because what is the lifestyle they desire?
I think they should have a plan before coming here in the Philippines, like the hierarchy of the goals, like which one do you want to go first? Find a Filipina or find a place first before finding a Filipina? Choosing your lifestyle so that you can pick the location you're going to pick for yourself in the future. Because a lot of locations in the Philippines will not satisfy the lifestyle that you want to have in your life for long term.
Now, we just did a survey and the majority, well, the men were sort of equally divided. Only like 18% were like condo livers, 26%, and we'll show you the actual numbers, wanted to live in a suburban gated community. A provincial simple house like this one here was very highly rated. Of the audience watching, we know that you don't all fit in one bucket. So let's talk about the major cities and the lifestyle. This is the main mistake you could make in 2026. If you don't, like for Chrissy and I, we moved to Cagayan de Oro to be 5 hours away from most of Chrissy's family. The first year we lived alone. And it was a somewhat dangerous area in Mindanao, and that's why we didn't get closer. But after living here for 3 years, Chrissy, here we are building in the mountain, and we spend half our week up here in the mountain. We don't crave the Costco SNR in the city. We like being up here in the mountain. That turns out to be the lifestyle that we're really most desirous of. And I didn't know that when I first came here. We made a video, the top 5 retirement cities in the Philippines, and one you might not want to live in. And that one's got about 90,000 views. So you might want to check that after this video. But Manila is going to have a big city life. It's not a place you want to drive, but if you want to live in BGC, or if you want to live in Makati, or even Taguig, you can scratch out a pretty good condo lifestyle there. Many people, Chrissy, they just want to get a home base in Cebu City and leave their suitcase. I don't really agree with that because then you got to skimp as you travel because you're paying rent in back home.
It also depends if you're in a relationship or you're a solo traveler. Because if you're single, you can live whatever you want that fits you. You can live in Manila, BGC. It's going to be expensive, but you're just going to be supporting yourself. Now, if you have a Filipina, you also have to consider what's the lifestyle your Filipina want to have.
There's Manila and there's Cebu, the two biggest cities in the Philippines. Cebu's tied with Davao, 2.3 million in the metro. We just got back from Davao. It is organized, and after Dumaguete, it is always the safest city. It's tied really with Dumaguete for the safest city in the Philippines. And it has access to international airport, SNR, Samal Island, amazing mountains like we are here in the Bukidnons. CDO, Cagayan de Oro, very north-central island of Mindanao, very rugged, easy escape to the mountains, whitewater rafting, town of 800,000. This is where we chose to live. And in our video that we talked about, we rank CDO. And Chrissy, Bukidnon Mountains. What do you say?
I am so amazed with Bukidnon Mountains, actually. Like, we passed Valencia, Malaybalay, Maramag, and there's a lot of towns that I feel like I want to live. But, of course, for you as an expat, you have to consider the medical, support, the healthcare, the transportation. But if you want to be near the ocean, you cannot get that from Bukidnon Mountains. You're going to be a little bit farther
And
yeah.
you know, number one in the world for natural disasters, the Philippines, ranked number one, most likely to be hit by a natural disaster. So Mindanao doesn't usually get slammed with typhoons. Davao is very far south, doesn't usually get hit by typhoons. Where we live, we haven't had a major typhoon in 18, 20 some odd years.
Yeah.
But there are earthquakes. Davao is an earthquake sensitive area. There are floods that we showed you a picture of a road that totally collapsed in a flood. But we saw some beautiful mountain roads, and we saw the ocean. We saw Mindanao. We had never really explored Mindanao like this. And we're always being asked about these other towns in Mindanao. So we went and we did an exploration so we could help you in our consultations. But the lifestyle is the critical thing that people get wrong.
Yeah.
Like, are you wanting to fish? Are you wanting to be out walking on the beach every morning? Are you afraid that the salt air and the sun will age you rapidly? Does your lifestyle interfere with the medical care that you think you might need? Are you a mountain guy who wants the cooler temperatures? Are you someone who wants to be at the movie theaters and shopping and access to good restaurants? You come up into these mountains, forget about the restaurant that the French expatriate owns, right? And Chrissy, we stopped at this restaurant where a Frenchman owned a pizza restaurant. He had a $3,000 foosball table. It was amazing. So you can find an oddball opportunity, but if your lifestyle, and a lot of men choose to meet their Filipina, like Chrissy mentioned, first, and then live an hour from their family. Other men are like, hey, I'm just going to retire and forget about the Filipina. I'm going to find my lifestyle, find the city that I like, and I'll organically meet somebody. And that is doable. But Chrissy, while we're on the subject of meeting Filipinas, so often we consult with men on how to succeed online. We have a book on how to succeed online. Very rarely does a man land in Manila, land in Cebu City, date a waitress, a tour guide, a front desk clerk from a hotel, and find true love. He might find companionship, Chrissy, but very rarely does he find true love. So I always say, if you flew to New York City, you heard there were farm girls in Iowa, you wouldn't go to Brooklyn and date your waitress and think you're going to find a small town girl from 1965. What's the third biggest mistake?
Underestimating family dynamics.
This, you know, we've revealed to you some of our family dynamics. We tested childcare without family members and with family members. And for 2 years, we had a very successful arrangement with your father. Unfortunately, he decided to start his own family. We offered him a part-time job.
Yeah, we offered a part-time job,
the same
but
pay.
I think he wanted to have his own.
Yeah, he wants to be the head of the house. Yeah, so
he wanted to restart.
Yeah, and he moved back to the province. We didn't terminate him. He decided that he wanted to raise a new family in the province. He's got some property there and he's going to build something. So Chrissy, what is the single biggest mistake that people underestimate about Filipino family dynamics?
That having family members around you will be helpful, but most of the time it is the one that makes conflict.
It could be stressful.
It could be stressful, it could be overwhelming, and it could pressure you as well.
Gossip,
bad mouthing, crab mentality, requests for money.
It could overwhelm you.
It could and not just you, but also the Filipina.
And quite often, my consulting clients say, "Hey, I'm going to move right away," and a family member will move in. And I'm always like, "Hey, your first year together, like we did. Our first year together, CJ didn't live with us. We lived alone in that big house, and we made sure that we were a couple. We were had long-term that the foundation for a long-term relationship was there. So I don't recommend you allow the family to overwhelm you in the first year. And a lot of men have written in that they think we made a mistake hiring family members.
Yeah. You know, your obligation only to explain yourself and about the lifestyle and maybe about your financial is to your Filipina only. And to explain it to the whole relatives and to the whole clan is not going to happen. So the other family members or relatives will expect a lot about you, but only your Filipina knows what is you're capable with,
situation.
really.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be and positive and negative reaction. It's gonna explode
Right.
one day,
Well,
and
yeah.
you know, a lot of problems that could happen with a lot of family around you.
Right. What creates the most conflict with family? Money?
Money.
Money.
Yeah. You know, not being contented of the things that, you know, the good things that having in your life, because you're expecting that there will be more and more and more and more than that. So even though they already feel the benefits,
Yeah.
they will still think that it's not enough.
I mean, it can be hard. Like your sister's fiance bought a very expensive brand new car. And I don't know what the family thought, but they probably thought, boy, that was a lot of money.
And also when the family still have this in their mind that the kids are their retirement plan.
What do you think surprises Filipino women most about Western men?
I don't know about others, but for me, we talk to a lot of men online.
We do.
And then I was surprised that there's so many foreign men as well that are very gullible.
Wow.
And
Well, that's because of the nature of the work you do. You're doing these social media. Now, we just talked to a man this week who gave away $30,000 US without meeting the woman. And it
Yeah.
turned out she was using counterfeit documents and had an amazing scam going. And this we've seen quite often, visa scams, fake passports, fake student ID. It goes on and on. So you think men are gullible?
a lot of them. I didn't expect that there's a lot of them. But, you know, like, I don't know about foreign men before because I did not study about them. And then I wasn't involved or, you know, wasn't engaged with foreigner men before, only you, up until we have this business and I got to talk to a lot of foreign men. So I got to learn and surprise about
You know, I think
different
a
situations.
lot of really smart men get scammed. They've been successful. They've managed employees. They've run and started businesses, and they trust their gut. And
I think that's what also surprised me, that not only gullible men get scams, but also smart
really
men get
smart
scammed.
guys. And the more sure you are that you're not being scammed, the more careful you should be. That's the biggest tip-off that you could be being scammed, is you're positive you're not. And Chrissy, you know, there's two mistakes in the Philippines. While we're still talking about women and scamming, believing that attention is affection. You know, poor women in Asia will show you a lot of attention. It doesn't mean they're affectionate, and you got to be careful about that. But mistake number 4 is thinking that cheap is affordable.
A lot of men will hear Philippines is cheap, but that's incomplete. The real question is, cheap compared to what?
Yeah. Now, some things like housing are super inexpensive, but it's more expensive than Vietnam and Thailand. It's about 20% more expensive than Vietnam and other places in Asia. And there are things like housing and wages, $7 a day. In our construction we're doing here, we pay 400 pesos for basic labor, 650 pesos for semi-skilled, people who can do rendering and skim coating, and a foreman would normally earn 1,000 pesos a day. And that is, you know, you can't get a painter to work one day for less than what we pay here for the whole crew for the week. So that's very affordable. But cheap compared to what, Chrissy? Imported goods are not cheap.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not.
Like if you wanna get the goods from the foreign countries or from the US, it's not gonna be cheap here. It could be cheaper if you're gonna order it in your country, right?
We go to SS, like the Costco, that big can of chicken. It's double what you can pay in the US. And there are frozen foods at the S&R that are the brands we would want from the United States. I won't buy them. They're ridiculous ripoffs. I would never pay for them here.
That's why we always advise buy local foods.
Yeah.
Like the more local you can get, the more cheaper you can have.
Now, Chrissy, automobiles are less expensive. We have the Chinese vehicles are starting to be very high quality. So autos are cheaper, housing is cheaper, but the internet costs typically $40 to $60 a month. Electricity is a little bit cheaper. Water's very cheap. But Chrissy, when you get to quality housing, all of a sudden it gets more expensive. Like if you want housing without karaoke, well, we're going to pay more.
Well, we talk about cheap. It also touched the lifestyle that you chose. Like what lifestyle you chose for your living here in the Philippines. So,
Right.
you know, it depends on your lifestyle. If you want the lifestyle in BGC, there's no cheap in BGC.
Well, it's about 40% more expensive. But if you want to drive a modern vehicle with airbags and good suspension and turn the infrastructure into not a problem, it's not that cheap. The cost of gasoline went up to $10 a gallon for diesel in the worst part of this recent conflict. If you want to travel, well, you know, it's cheap to travel, but it adds up. It adds up. If you're going and going and going, it adds up. We were just in Boracay. We were spending $200 a night plus restaurants. It adds up very, very quickly. We're going back to Malaysia. It's going to add up. So if you're buying local food, and now we have a client who just moved in and is paying 30,000 pesos. He says 5 bedrooms, 7 baths. And it's in a good location, and his Filipina is from CDO. So it is very, very doable. You can get but it's hit or miss whether you can get quiet, water pressure, not have an insect problem, not have a problem with a neighbor. The pool is the pool. He said, the pool's not, there's no pool. The pool, they have one, but it doesn't work. So it's hit or miss. You can get a very affordable lifestyle. And, you know, we did a survey, Chrissy, and we asked what budget is most comfortable. Most of the men said $2,500 was the budget that was comfortable for them. Yes, 30,000, 35,000 pesos, you can find a nice province house or a very nice furnished guard-gated subdivision house. Now, BGC, 2 bedrooms, a little room for a nanny, you're going to be paying like 85,000 pesos a month.
I think if you're going to throw the question, what is the budget that will make you comfortable in your living, will also depend on who are the people you're asking.
You know, healthcare can be very reasonable. A hip replacement, 12,000, knee replacement, 8,000, a heart attack might be 4,000. And a lot of people do self-insure. Others buy local insurance. And I went to the doctor 6 months ago, Chrissy, for a cough, and it was $9. The guy saw me for half an hour. It's crazy.
Okay, mistake number 5. I know a lot of them will not expect this, but thinking that finding a Filipina will solve everything.
Yeah, if you find the right Filipina, you can still have a large assortment of problems. If you don't have your health, no good Filipina is going to solve that problem. If your budget is maxed out and you're showing off and living large at these lower prices, having a good Filipina is not going to solve that problem. If you have no passion, if you have no hobbies, if you have no exercise, if you have no friends, if you have no gravity, a good Filipina will feel it, and she will feel like you're trying to live your life through her, and that can push her away, don't you think?
Yeah, a lot of men thought that finding a Filipina can solve their problem, but instead they got more problems.
Well, yeah, but a good Filipina, maybe not as many. But, you know, Filipinas, like, inherently are jealous. All women in Asia use tampo to some degree, and you can run into that. And then you can get Filipinos and their family members might have medical issues. They could have diseases you can't pronounce and medicines that can be purchased at large amounts of money. And now you're in a situation where what are you going to do? You're going to let your loved ones, relatives die.
It's like an equivalent to the Western culture as well of being confrontational and being blunt. In the Philippines, jealousy is like culturally inherited.
Yes. Chrissy, there's a lot of YouTube channels out there. They just say, find a good Filipina. Here's how you find a good Filipina. Boots on the ground methods, online problems, red flags. What we do is a lot different. We stay with the man during a 6-month period of consultation. And then, Chrissy, you have this vetting service. And boy, oh boy, what we've learned from vetting hundreds and hundreds of potential partners, and the pass rate is only 40%. Whether you've met or you haven't. But what we've learned is how critical it is that you vet the Filipina. Because if you have found someone who's lying to you, who's being deceptive, who's misleading, using counterfeit documents, has a husband and a boyfriend in the picture when you're out of the country, you will have problems like no tomorrow. So finding that Filipina, Chrissy, is not going to solve any problem. When you do these consultations, Chrissy, I mean, other than not understanding, other than finding out that there's a lot of successful men who get scammed, what are you finding out about the techniques and the way these Filipinos are going about their trade craft?
You know, there's various learning as well that I get through this service, because I learn about the side of the foreigners, and I also learn about the side of good Filipinas and bad Filipinas and organized crime and ladyboys as well.
You just had one last week, but you get about 2 a month.
Yes,
ladyboys.
so there's a lot that I learned. I learned that a lot of good Filipinas will request money because of poverty, but because of that request, it's gonna turn them down. You know, they might be real, they might be a wife material,
right.
But because of the poverty, it pushes them, it pressured them to hint money to the foreigners. Also, I learned from the foreigners that even though it's already obvious that there's something wrong,
they go forward.
Okay, so there's a lot of things that happen like that, but our help gave them the chance to stop, because sometimes believing in yourself that there's something wrong could not make you stop, but hearing it from the third party will make you stop.
You know, there's a lot of clients where the Filipina claim to be never married, claim to not have children, claim to have gotten a annulment but never did. We found boyfriends on vacation 2 months before he came back for another trip. We found women with financial problems that were talked about online. So there is a large assortment of devious behavior going on. And I always tell men, Chrissy, it's all about being persistent. And I like to say that we've had hundreds of clients who've been successful, but almost all of them stumbled out of the gate. Almost all of them had a bad experience the first week. And then the majority of them had a in-depth relationship for a week or two with a scammer before the third or fourth try that they met their Filipina. They met that woman from a smaller town, not from Manila, not from Cebu City, and they succeeded because they didn't quit. And finding out how to succeed in the Philippines involves not making these 5 mistakes.
You should always remember that a relationship doesn't fix a bad plan. For a good relationship will amplify a good plan.
I think that's one of the most important things we can help people with, is putting together an actual plan and then vetting their progress and seeing if they're moving in the right direction. Chrissy, the happiest expats that we've met in the Philippines have one thing in common.
They stopped chasing fantasy and face reality.
And they started building a system to be successful, learning from best practices, learning from hundreds of other men who've gone before them and made mistakes or learned how to succeed. They started building a system.
A system for where they will live.
A system for their finances.
A system for relationships.
A system for healthcare.
And a system for family.
Chrissy, the men who struggle are usually reacting.
And the men who succeed are planning.
Every week, Chrissy, we talk to men who are trying to figure out if the Philippines is right for them.
Some of them are considering marriage.
And some are considering retirement.
Some are trying to figure out where to live.
There isn't one blueprint for retirement. There is only your blueprint.
If you'd like help building that blueprint, take the relationship assessment online and book a consultation with Rob and Chrissy.
I never used to say this 2.5 years ago when we started, but I never fail to say it today. Never get on an airplane to come see a Filipina if you have not vetted her social media. There's a link in the description box and the first pinned comment. Chrissy's service is equivalent to dinner out in the West, and it can save you so much heartache and suffering, or give you that skip in your step confidence when you get off the plane.
Don't forget to like and subscribe and share this video to the person you think who need it.
Till next time.
Only here from Fly Me to the Philippines.
Till next time, don't forget to write